Everybody wants to be a visionary, right? And I think it's an excuse a lot of times for people that just don't want to do the work.
They don't want to lean into their strengths. They want to be the main character.
Today, we've got Andre and Tyler from Uncommon Group out of Georgia doing about 6 figures a month in wholesale assignments and novations.
Two of our biggest core values that we implemented in the beginning and we push and everything we do is communication and transparency.
One of the big things why we're still partners today is we set a lot of boundaries and expectations up front.
Today, they're going to be sharing the secrets on how they're getting 1 out of 10 closings on cold call and direct mail leads. Holy shit.
Welcome to the Zeroed In Podcast. I'm your host, John Lallande, a seasoned real estate investment expert and former Marine recon sniper. This podcast is designed for those seeking effective strategies to increase revenue growth through strategic hiring, leadership, and effective tracking. Our focus here is clear and direct. We provide actionable insights from successful founders and growth experts. Whether you're establishing a new business or aiming to scale an existing one, our episodes offer the essential advice you need for practical business growth. Lock and load, zero in, and get ready to scale.
Welcome to the Zeroed In Podcast. Today, we've got Andre and Tyler from Uncommon Group out of Georgia doing about 6 figures a month in wholesale assignments and novations. And today, they're going to be sharing the secrets on how they're getting 1 out of 10 closings on cold call and direct mail leads. Holy shit. And we're going to be talking about their novation process. So Andre and Tyler, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us, brother.
Thanks for having us, John.
And I say man, so this is unique for me because this is the first 3-way podcast that I've done. But explain to me kind of, Tyler, you said briefly, you're from Georgia. You guys are doing deals in Georgia. But Andre, you're in Connecticut, right? How did you guys link up and what is the business structure now? What's your guys' relationship?
I'll keep it brief. I know I've been working on this. I usually take a while to explain things, but I started out 2018. I actually owned a gym. Long story short, gym business wasn't doing so hot in 2020. They were trying to shut us down. I was like, man, I really need to get my real estate business kicked back up. It really didn't have legs after that. So I have another source of income. And I also got into a little bit of risky asset trading with crypto. So I was doing that as another source of income. In the meantime, 2021, got the gym back regulated. We actually made it through that time. And I was just like, man, I really got to get this real estate thing back going because it's a goal that I just had to do. Little did I know in the background, Andre was actually working his way up the ladder, the corporate ladder. He worked at a restaurant, high-end restaurant, met the CEO of a kidney transplant company. They loved him, hired him on, worked his way up to operations manager of the company. And he was only, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 24 at the time, Andre?
23.
Yeah, 23 and just phenomenal rock star. And he's working his way up over here and I'm doing my thing down here, small town, Columbus, Georgia. He's up in Connecticut working for that big multi-million-dollar company. And we're gaining our own experiences. I'm running the gym. I'm trading crypto. I've been in real estate since 2018. I did a flip with another partner. Then we kind of had a falling out. And so 2022, I was like really networking hard. I read the book Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. I was like, man, I really need an integrator partner. And I'm willing at this point, I'm willing to give up 50% of everything. I want to make this dream a reality, right? I got to follow through on this. So Andre posts in an investor group, I think it was the Pace Morby group or something. He's like, hey, look into, he still has the post saved, but in a nutshell from my memory, which is probably wrong, but he said, I'm looking to switch careers, maybe looking to hire a mentor. Here's my value add. Here's my skill sets. I'm great at operations, great at managing people, great at building a team. And I was like, man, this is my guy. He just looked professional. He looked good in his profile picture. And long story short, we hopped on a call. I was one of the first few comments. We hopped on a call, spoke for 3 hours. He had maybe spoken to a few other people prior. And we just hit it off, man. We met every morning on Zoom at 8 a.m. I pretty much pitched him. I'm like, hey, look, I don't have the real estate business established yet, but I know what not to do. I have enough information to be dangerous. I've paid a college tuition and masterminds and blueprints and investment courses over the past 5 years. I've been networking like a fool. Like, come join me, help me build the back end of the business, run operations, and do your thing. I'll do my thing, front end, branding, selling. And then I'll teach you everything I know about real estate and give you 50% of all the profits. If we work well together during that dating period, 3 to 6 months, I'll make you a 50-50 partner. Boom. Here we are now. That was August of 2022. Here we are 2 years later. And we did 92K in assignments in May. So closed deals.
Ooh, let's go. Man. That was short and concise. I love it. So those things almost never work, right? Where somebody does a random Facebook post and you guys end up partnering on deals. Now, I'm really interested in hearing, Andre, your perspective, because there had to be other people. Integrators are in short supply, right? Visionaries are everywhere. And I can say this because I'm also a visionary, right? I've got a hardcore visionary profile.
I think, let me comment on that, John, because I think too many people think they're visionaries. That's like this key word. Everybody wants to be a visionary, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's an excuse a lot of times for people that just don't want to do the work.
I agree 100%. And so
they don't want to lean into their strengths. They want to be the main, character, but you still are a main character.
And you hear this all the time, right? Ideas are cheap. Implementation is hard, right? And so I've been in approached a bunch of times by people that feel like I'm an integrator because I'm the operator in my business, right? I don't have a partner or anybody like that. I've come from partnerships, and finding someone that is a good operator, it's hard to find a really good operator, right? So Tyler had to do something right to make you go over and hook up with him, right? So tell me, from your perspective, what did you see where you saw some potential in Tyler to go, this is something that I want to invest my time in?
Yeah, so I was pretty bought into starting the wholesale company at that point in time, or at least helping somebody start at that point in time. And I was following Pace Morby for a little while, learning about real estate, wholesale, and how do you get your foot in the door and into real estate. And when I made that post, a lot of people reached out to me, pretty much just like my intention was to find somebody that actually knew what they were doing, and it attracted a bunch of newbies wanting to partner up. And I talked to maybe 3 or 4 other guys, and they're like, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing, but if you want to partner up, let's do this thing. Let's do it together, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm really looking to work with somebody more experienced. And when I talked to Tyler, the difference was, he's a natural salesperson, so he kind of sold me on him. Yeah. But the difference was that he had conviction and we had similar goals. So for him, there was no doubt in his mind that he was going to reach this goal. And I'm like, dude, and we just synced so much on a goal level. Mm-hmm. And similar, he had wife and kids. We had similar core values. We just aligned in so many different levels. And the fact that he was willing to meet every single day consistently. I was still working my job, and I was getting up an hour earlier just so we can meet for an hour every single morning. We did that for about 3 months. Yeah. And the fact that he showed up every day, and we just, and I'll say this for people watching, one of the big things why we're still partners today is, this is hard to say, but Tyler, when your partner, your previous partner, when you guys fell out, you learned a lot of lessons there. And that was super valuable for us working together because we set a lot of boundaries and expectations up front, which I think was a game changer, because if we hadn't done that, I'm certain that 6 months into the partnership, we probably wouldn't be here today. Because one of the main things that we talked about up front was, hey, if you have a problem with me or if you have an issue, just call me and talk to me. I'm not going to think any different of you. I'm not going to be pissed off. If you're pissed at me or if you have something, just tell me right away, because or else you're going to start creating this resentment inside. And I'm the type of person that does that. I'll start creating fucking stories in my head and shit. Yeah. And a lot of people do. So I'm going to put that out there and say, hey, if that's the case, talk about it. Because a lot of times those stories that you're saying in your head aren't even true. The other person probably isn't thinking about it. So just bring it up and then talk about it. And 99% of the time, the issue gets resolved right there and then. You can move on. But if we hadn't set those expectations and boundaries and just talked about a lot of issues up front and how to deal with issues as a partners, then we wouldn't be here today.
That's huge. It's huge. And I just want to piggyback. I have these notes in my phone that I'm building up, and I've started it for my kids because I watched my wife's dad, pass, and we were with him at his house for 2 weeks as he passed, and he didn't want to go to a hospital. And she just was finding out all these things from other people about her dad, right? Mm-hmm. Like all these things about him. And it broke my heart. And I thought back of my relationship with my dad, and it's always like I'm with him for these periods of times and I'm learning these great lessons, but it's not like we're together all the time, right? So I started building these notes and writing these pretty much a book of life principles and different things and step-by-step processes for how to navigate life and my way, and then they'll do their own way. That was a huge thing, and Andre brought that up, and I love that, is the boundaries and expectations. That's where I have a start here in the notes, and it's before you do anything, before you read any of these fancy success secrets and principles and values, start here. And it literally says to keep happiness and joy in your life is to, with everyone you meet, set expectations and boundaries if you're going to have a relationship with them, pretty much. Like business, a financial relationship, or a love relationship, whatever. Set those expectations and boundaries up front. And I guarantee it will be a game changer. And I love that Andre brought that up.
It's huge. Probably one of the most overlooked things when newbies partner with other people, because it's man, it's a marriage pretty much. You know what I mean? If you're an entrepreneur, you're probably going to spend more time talking to your business partner than you will with your wife at most points in your life when your business is getting started. Right? So you have to think, for me, I do a really good job of setting these expectations now, but when I have a meeting, right? When I set a meeting on my calendar, my expectation is that you're going to show up and you're going to show up on time, right? That's just my expectation. Now, I have partnered with people in the past that don't have that same expectation for themselves. So they just will show up, show up a couple minutes late, in the car, not ready for the meeting at all. But that's the standard that they're used to. Right. And I'm talking about other successful people, right? It's just a standard that they're used to. And I love that you guys said, hey, we took a minute to set expectations, standards, and boundaries, right? Don't call me at 1:00 in the morning complaining about a fire on a property, right? When I'm spending time with my family and kids, maybe that's your thing, right? This is my time with my family and kids. And that ahead of time. So when you guys get into the partnership, you're not surprised when you call him, Andre, you might call Tyler at 7:30 and he says, hey, I'm at dinner with my family. Can we talk later? And you're like, what the heck? What am I supposed to do? Right? You've got those expectations and boundaries up front. So I love that you guys spoke about that before. And Tyler, if you don't mind sharing, I'm curious, some of these wounds had to come from a past partnership, right? Because when you have past partnerships, you really know what you want in the future ones, right? So what did you learn from your past partnerships that you didn't carry over to your next one?
I would say the big thing was the expectations and boundaries, and then the importance of aligning the core values up front. So I have my own set of core values for my family, but I want them to be the same in the business. But I can't just come in and say, hey, here's the core values that we're going to have in the business together. So we made it an exercise, right? And when I say core values, it could be different for different people at different times, because me and my other partner, we had a ton of the same core values. I mean, even different ones, maybe that Andre and I have, we were always in the fucking gym, right? Like Andre's not a gym rat. He still values health and he's going to work out and train. But, you know, some people are just obsessed with it. And we were like that. But then other things, whereas like when it came to family boundaries, where Andre respects that, my other partner, you know, just couldn't get that. And I blame myself, you know, for the upfront stuff, because I will say it was new because my daughter was born. I found out that Caitlin was pregnant with my daughter at the same time, right around maybe the same week that I was about to close on the gym back in 2017. Yeah. So it was like I was buying a business and I found out that, you know, Caitlin was pregnant, and it was just like, well, I guess I'm going in, you know, the deep end. So I'm really figuring it out too. So I'm coming to Andre with more experience with like what my boundaries even are. I didn't even know what they were, you know, so it was just so early. I was 26 at that time. And look, this guy wasn't even really like a partner. I did a mentorship and partnership with the military, where they would send me special forces guys that wanted to get in the fitness industry, and I would mentor them when they were leaving the military. And
like a skill bridge program, something like that.
It was called the CARE Coalition, and they would send me guys. But basically, in a nutshell, these guys, and as you know, they commit suicide a lot of times because they have no direction after they leave. They're high performance individuals, but they have no direction. They can't manage a schedule on their own. They don't have self-directed goals. So I would come in and teach them all that. Long story short, I really became good friends with this guy. I pretty much educated him, taught him how to be a trainer, hired him, and then I was actually going to promote him to be the operations manager of the gym. And then I was going to go out and start the real estate venture, and he was going to manage the gym. And he's like, you know, I've got money in an IRA. I want to get into real estate. And so it's like, all right, you can come to the mentorships. That was a lesson, big lesson that I learned, is taking an employee from one business sector to another business sector was not a good idea.
They're going to suffer.
Spread and focus.
One of them is going to suffer. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so we ended up instead of spreading our focus and being efficient, we were flip-flopping between, we need to focus over here. We got all these fires on, you know, this flip or marketing. And then here we got the fires in the gym. So that was a huge lesson for me too. And like I said, it wasn't an official partnership, but
got it. But you learned some good lessons there. And to find Andre, your guys' values lined up. You know, you talked about boundaries. You had a 3-hour call right off the bat. That's usually a good sign, right? You guys probably hit it off. If you had a 3-hour call and then had another one.
3-hour call was just off the cuff. Hey, let's hop on a call after I commented on the post. Hey, let's hop on a call. Boom. I was like having a family cookout here. I end up spending 3 hours on the phone with this random guy that I just met on Facebook.
Interesting.
So it was off the cuff. It was awesome. And then 8 a.m. every single morning after that for the next, 3 months, building the core values together, building the vision together. Because that was another big thing. I had my vision. Yeah, alignment. That's a good word. I wanted to make sure, and Andre wanted to make sure that we were aligned on all the goals. And I had my own goal setting system. He had his own goal setting system. We brought them together, merged them, and just aligned everything.
Now, do you guys feel like that's important? Do you feel like that's important to get alignment before you start running and gunning?
For me,
absolutely.
Absolutely. At the point that I was in business, I was at a point where I was like, I don't have to fucking work with anyone. I can choose who I want to work with. Like, I'm old enough. I have enough business age on me by this point, by the time Andre and I met, that I was like, I'm not desperate, right? I'm not here to just take on anyone. I want to make sure we align so I know we can go the long haul, right? And that was huge for me. So yeah, and it was really valuable to Andre as well.
Why was it so important for you, Andre?
To be in alignment?
Yeah.
Well, so I had worked I was 4.5 years working at this company called the National Kidney Registry. They facilitate kidney transplants around the country, and I was pretty much responsible for the logistics part of making sure the organs got from point A to point B. I was working with high-level executives at this company. I love the job. Like I'm learning so much about business there. I'm working with super high performers, learning operations. That's how I found my skill set that was in operations and streamlining systems and stuff like that. So I had a great job, and I didn't want to just like leave and just hop into business with anybody or just not have a plan in place. I had enough money saved up where I knew I was going to go into business and start this wholesaling thing. And I just I'm not going to just jump in with, 2 feet into something and not know that person, right? And not make sure that we're aligned and we're trying to achieve the same thing. So it was just important to me to make sure that I'm working with the right person and we're aligned before really getting into bed with each other, and in the long haul, because if a year from now this doesn't work out, now I'm out of a well-paying job that I'm doing great at, and I just wasted a year and wasted all this money. I had, I said, I think I had 6 months of savings saved up or something. I was like, all right, look, I got 6 months for this business to start making money and so I can feed myself. So it was, I just kind of jumped into the water with no life vest. I guess I had a little bit of life vest.
Hold on.
Kind of burned the boats.
That's what I'm looking at. Burning the boats. Yeah.
Yeah.
He quit his job. He's like, I'm quitting my job. I think I don't know how many weeks in I'm like, bro, do not quit your job yet.
Yeah. Well, one of the things
I'm quitting my job.
One of the things that I really like.
One day, and I was like, bro, do not quit your job. We're not even making a steady income yet. But that really lit a fire under me though. And I went out and just put together, I was like, I got to at least show this guy how I can do it. So I went out.
Because he's ready to go.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
I had enough experience with myself, learning and trying to build businesses, not really big, but hobbies on the side.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in business, and I realized I can't do 2 things at once. I got to focus all my energy in one thing, or else it's just, I'm going to give up the next month. So I knew that for me to take this wholesaling thing seriously, I had to do it full time, and I had to do it 100%, or else it wasn't going to work. I know a lot of people say, oh, you can make money while you sleep. It's so easy, but it's not. This is a hard fucking business. It takes money to start. It's expensive. Time and money. It's not.
Anybody telling you that is just selling you something, and they're selling you a pipe dream,
and it's
right?
bullshit.
So one of the things I'd like to talk about for a little bit is because I think people listening can really learn a lot from how you guys structured your partnership, because it's working well and most of them don't, right? And so I want to point out something that I noticed is that neither of you needed a partner. Right? It wasn't coming from a need. And so some of the red flags that you'll hear is, hey, I'll give you a couple of examples, and some of these I've heard in real life, some of these I've heard from other stories, right? I've heard myself or heard from other stories. Hey, I've got this really good idea, but I've got this other business and it's just taking all my time. I just need you to come and help me out with it, right? I've got the money, I've got this, but I just don't have any time, right? Huge red flag, because that person needs you, right? They absolutely need you. Now, if they're going to give you 80% of the equity of the business and make it 100%, 80% yours, and they're going to fund it, that could be an agreement, right? But you have to know that going into it. Another red flag could be, hey, maybe I had a past business venture and I'm in a bunch of debt. I need to make money. I need to make money right now because I owe a bunch of other people money, right? Those are things that would scare me as well, right? And so both of you said something that really resonated is, hey, I didn't need to do this. I had something good going on. Tyler had his business going on. And Andre, you had a good job. You guys didn't need each other. You guys wanted to work together. It's almost like when you feel really like you need to get into a relationship right away, you're probably going to pick the wrong woman. When you feel comfortable with yourself, you don't feel needy, that's when that right woman comes along, right? Because it's coming out of a place, like Andre said, from alignment instead of just, I need to go find somebody, so I'm going to pick the first person with a pulse, like probably all those other people in the group were doing. So I really, really love that. Do you guys have anything to add on that?
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there, and that's a great point because, Andre was making 6 figures. And I'm like, I was over here like, why would he quit his job 6 figures? And I'm like just blown away. And that level of like when he burned the boats, you know, and now I was actually still running the gym. Well, I had someone running it for me. So I would meet with him once a week, my operations manager there. I ended up in February finally, I think I came to Andre randomly and I was like, you know what? I'm selling the gym. I'm going all in on the real estate. We're going all in. Once we started making, you know, enough money for me to kind of replace that, it was, you know, it was time to move on.
I love it.
But the
and
level
now 6 figures a month, baby.
Yeah.
It's not 6 figures a year.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not all profit, but 6 figures a month is a huge milestone to hit in your business. So congratulations. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, you guys are doing 2 things really well, right? You're converting leads like beast. So I've never heard of anybody converting direct mail and cold call leads on average 1 out of 10, right? That's incredible. So walk us through, what does your sales process look like? Lead comes in, what happens? Who calls it? Is it a virtual assistant? What do they say? Give us the scoop.
You want to start with it, Andre, or you want me to get?
That's all you, Tyler. You're the sales guy.
So when the lead comes in, if it's direct mail, then the lead manager is usually going to pick it up unless the lead manager is not available. We're actually in the process now of restructuring to have 1.5 lead managers per home buying specialist, whereas before we just had 1 rock star lead manager for 2.5 home buying specialists.
Wow.
And we were doing great. These are the numbers we've been doing. So we think that when we switch to this new model, we're just going to increase our closing ratio because of the fact that we're going to be sending more qualified leads to the home buying specialists and not wasting their time on appointments. But basically, in a nutshell, direct mail lead comes in, lead manager has their own script where we're going over a MOTA, you know, equity, motivation, ownership, timeline, actionability. And then she's going to schedule the appointment for the home buying specialist.
Is that in person or is that virtual?
So we have 1 full-time in person. We were initially going to go all in person.
Okay.
But we actually got an opportunity to work with a guy that Andre, through his network, was referred to us. And he used to work for Grant Cardone. He used to work for Meridian Trust, Property Force. He was just a beast on the phones, older guy too. And he convinced us to let him try him out virtual. He's been crushing it. So we got 1 full-time virtual and 1 full-time in-person.
So what do these numbers look like virtual compared to, and I definitely want to get in the rest of this, but I haven't seen anyone that has full virtual and full in-person where the virtual's winning. Is that the case with you guys? What do your numbers look like virtual versus in-person guy?
No, in-person is definitely winning.
Okay.
I don't have my
numbers. You know, Anthony, he's from in Florida. He's only been with us for about 2 months now.
Okay.
So I don't think we have enough data to even really say that.
Yeah.
Our theory is that in person is going to be bigger spreads, of course, just because you're belly to belly with the homeowners. But Anthony, he's phenomenal on the phones. Like, this guy's an experienced phone sales. He calls himself the phone athlete. He treats it like a sport. He's dialed into his metrics. He knows if he makes this many calls, he's going to get this many offers. He's going to get this many contracts. He's dialed in. He will make 400 calls a day if that's what it takes.
Yep.
Wow.
Like, he treats it like a sport, which a lot of people don't.
And he'll be on. So we have a Discord that we make a virtual office. So if the lead managers, if they're virtual, which all of our lead managers right now are, we had 1 local, which my nephew, but then he got an offer he couldn't refuse. So he wasn't with us long, but our lead managers and our virtual people and even our in-person people, when they're in the office, we want them to be inside the Discord office. So it creates camaraderie, people working together, and we also have transparency into them. They keep their screen shared, so I can pop into the bullpen on the Discord, and Anthony's in there dialing. I know he's going to be in there from after the morning huddle, after the sales training. He's going to be in there from 10 a.m. to about 11:30, 12 p.m. He goes to lunch. Then he'll be back, 1, 2 p.m. All the way until 5, and sometimes later. He's just in there dialing on appointments. I can hop in, help him out, run some comps for him or something, give him a final number. But back to the process. So home buying specialist is either going to go out to the property if it's an in-person appointment, or we're going to hop on the phone call appointment, and they are going to run the process. We're going to set the rules, set the expectations. Then we're going to go into condition. We keep all that surface level stuff, and we don't even talk about condition. We're just verifying, like, hey, you know, they mentioned something about the roof. They mentioned something about this. Is that accurate? Yep, cool. We don't really get into all that. Then we're going to move into motivation and then transition. And then when they have to bring their offer, their LAO, their lowest acceptable offer, to the sales manager, which right now is me. So they have to bring it to me, make a call, a service walk basically, and say, hey, here's what I got. They need to have their own analysis ran, their own comps in the system. I'll look at it real quick. I'll confirm, yes, this is the number, run it, no, or here's what you could do. Maybe we could work creative. And then they go back and they're required to come to me with every retrade, every renegotiation. Like, let's say the seller wants 100K and they're at 60, and then they have to come to me. Okay, this is the number. All right. They go make the offer. All right. You can't accept that. They have to come back to me again, you know, which is rare, but it does happen. And that's something new we were doing too with over the past, I think, 3 months.
Yeah.
And at first it was, you know, tricky, but we're still dialing it in. But I really like it a lot. I thought it was going to put a lot more work on me, which it has, but I think it's valuable because what was our average revenue per deal in May was 19,000, almost 20,000, where our usual average revenue is around 15, 16,000. So I feel like
a lot of people are afraid to say, like you said, I was going to put a lot more work on me. Yeah, it's good as long as you're putting that work on the right activity, right? If it's something that moves the needle, good, it should put a lot of work on you, right? So I love that I was thinking about that. I was like, man, that's a really good process. Definitely time consuming, but it's the right type of time consuming. Right. So I am curious with your lead managers, how do they know when to send an in-person appointment or a phone appointment?
So the way it's tricky because we do a round robin system.
Okay.
But if they're an out of state owner and they can't meet in person, then it's definitely going to go phone. Number one priority is to set in person. So it's priority to set in person. Yeah. And then even our virtual guy, Anthony, sometimes if he feels as though he can get a better situation going by sending Connor, he'll split his commission. So we'll do split commission and he'll send Connor, our in-person guy, to it. Now, that's not a great system that will probably scale on, but right now with the small team, you know, it works and it's got a good dynamic to it.
So let's dive into that because I did that before. And what I noticed is my phone rep would just basically get the cold shoulder from a seller. And then he would go, hey, in-person guy, can you go? Because they're not going to be, a seller's not going to be as rude when they're in person. They're just not, right? They're always, which is why in-person works so well. Is that what you guys are experiencing?
No.
Just a lot of,
it's like he teased him up. Like, it's almost like he just needs him to go get the contract signed because maybe it's an elderly seller that doesn't have an email or like something like that. You know, or a situation that he just discerns that, you know, this needs to be locked up in person. It's only, I think maybe 3 times it's happened, maybe if that.
Okay. And they're doing priority. So you're booking majority of in-person. Plus you guys are cold call and direct mail. Yeah. So you're able to stay pretty targeted, right?
Yes. And so the cold call, the live transfers would go straight to the home buying specialists. And if they didn't get answered and no home buying specialist was available, then the lead managers would hit on that fairly quickly.
Okay. Man, I love that process. And you guys are closing, at least as of recent, 1 out of 10 cold call leads. Yeah. Now, what are you telling your provider to, because those have to be qualified cold call leads. Obviously, most cold call leads, you just couldn't close 1 out of 10.
That's a huge piece. And I know Here's the
sauce.
I'm going to give you the secret sauce. And I told Scott he was going to have to give me royalties for this. But and this was like something that they did not want to do it. It took a couple, like we had to still be closing hardcore numbers to get them to even entertain, because he's so strict on his process. The numbers, man, the number range was killing us. And I knew it for so long, and I kept hammering. And finally I was just like, look, I'm going to give you guys some talk tracks, right, that I want you to say before setting our appointments. And they're like, oh, I don't know if we could do that. I was like,
Tyler, explain the number range.
Yeah.
So everyone knows what that is.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, Promise to the cold call company they only qualify the lead if it's within a range. And this range can be like on a $220,000 house. It could be a range of, 100 to 200, something crazy, just stupid range. And what it does is it anchors the seller into like, oh, I thought that's what you were offering, or I thought that was like, they gave me a number, right? They take it as a number.
Okay. And
would they accept somewhere in there? And it just messed our sales process all up, and I was done with it. I was just like, look, you tell Scott that this is what we're going to be doing. And once you get the data from us, he's allowed to start using it with every other customer, but he has to start giving me royalties. I was just being.
Yeah, of course.
And so I gave him talk tracks. I was like, okay, get rid of the number range on all of our leads. We don't want no number. Don't talk about numbers. And here's why. Here's how I justified it. Not even talking about demographics. Let's just say, because we work with our lead managers a lot on tone and pace and speed and things like that. Let's just say relatability to the way that I have a Southern drawl or whatever. When they talk to me versus talking to someone that has a slight accent, what do you think? Who do you think they're going to give a lower number to? Like, or a more favorable number to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, look, you're anchoring me either you're not sending me leads because you're trying to anchor to an unrealistically high number where there's, or an unrealistically low number where we might be able to know the local area. Like, hey, this is an up and coming area. We might be able to do something with this lead. You're not sending me some leads that could be qualified on my end, but aren't on your end. Two, you are anchoring us too high, right? You're anchoring us too high, and we don't even have our lead managers talk numbers. The only number they're going to be asking about is the mortgage.
Yep.
Right.
Same.
Like, so home buying specialist has to run the rule setting and the rapport section and motivation before we even talk about numbers.
Yeah.
So like they're muddying the water up for us. So I was like, look, here's what I want you to say, and here's what I want you to qualify instead of the numbers. Right before you go to pass off the live transfer or qualify the lead, I'm going to say, look, if the local company, they're one of the biggest buyers in the area. If the local company we connect you with is able to give you a number that works for you, are you ready to move forward on this next call? And if they say yes, transfer it over. If they say no, then your objection handler is, well, you may not qualify. I'm going to have to look back and maybe talk to my manager. Let me see if I can do something. So you're just not ready to move forward, essentially, and then they're going to start hemming and hawing over like if they're even qualified to be transferred.
I like that. I like that a lot. Actionability brings it back to actionability.
That was huge.
And I was telling my lead manager this yesterday. I just hired another one 2 weeks ago, so he's still in training. And look, I don't care what they're asking for the property. I care, are they going to sell the property in the next 90 days? Right?
Yeah.
They're going to sell it. We want to go out there. The struggle with booking appointments is everybody would sell their house. Any single person you call would sell their house for a price.
Yep.
Right? And it's not always as simple as just saying, hey, we're not looking for people that would sell their house. We're looking for people that are looking to to sell their house. Because if you can get people that are looking to sell their house, 1 out of 10 of those are going to close, because out of all the people that are looking, 80% of them are going to sell. They're looking for ways to sell their house. We only need to do one off market, and that's a lot easier than talking to a bunch of people, right? The normal cold call leads, which is like, hey, we're a home buyer and we're just looking to buy more properties in your area. Would you consider selling your house? So like, yeah, I would consider selling. Well, it takes 60 of those leads to get a deal, and you guys have created a qualifying process that really works. So
what's huge, and I'll just to speak on what you're saying, is the real key is like we in the industry, we focus on the lead managers getting that actionability.
Mm-hmm. Good.
But the cold call, we don't focus as much on the cold call getting that actionability.
Yeah.
Like, don't even transfer me over that lead if they are not ready to sell their house. Save it for a later day. Like,
why does the lead manager need to speak to him? I guess
Exactly.
like the theory would be that they're better qualified and they're better trained. But I mean, you could just have better cold callers, right? And better qualified leads coming in.
When we switched over to this new model, even because Scott Morris at Lallande, they don't do like per lead manager. He has the whole floor call your account at one time. So you buy like dials. So he said all their cold callers like were pumped up to get when they were dialing our account, because it was number one, a lot easier to have conversations, because now they're not like having to talk about price. It made it easier for them and they could be more enthusiastic on those calls.
Yeah.
And it was easier for them to send over leads, because now they're not so worried about price. They are just looking for, hey, does this person have motivation, and are they ready to actually sell?
100%. And one of the things I've noticed from hiring new setters, new lead managers, is it matters a lot more just how personable they are, right? Yeah. All you really need to do is have a conversation with them, a 10-minute conversation where you can understand, is that person actually looking to sell, right? So a little bit of EQ to where they understand like sarcasm, right? Yeah, I could be out tomorrow. And they go, oh, yeah, obviously you could be out tomorrow. But like realistically, when would you like to sell the house, right? So they can pick up on those things, because that's one of the biggest things I see with, cold callers from the Philippines or from South America, is they don't pick up on the sarcasm. They think, yeah, sure, I'll sell. Like they just push everybody over, and even with the lead managers, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things is being personable. They don't need to talk about price. They don't need to negotiate. That's not their job, right? Their job is just to be able to find out if there's any motivation there.
And that's what I told them too, is like, I don't even need y'all to build rapport. I don't really care if you build rapport either. Like, don't try to be something you're not. Your goal. I was like, I kind of prefaced it with this. I'm like, what is your goal? And it's to set us more, is to send more leads to, more qualified leads to us, right? So
100%.
And our whole process, what we're trying to get to, is to make it where this person has to qualify to even receive an offer from us, right? Like, we probably aren't going to be a good fit,
for everybody.
For everybody. And we are definitely not going to be the highest offer, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time. So we want to make it like they're striving to work with us. I mean, a lot of the contracts we get are on callbacks too. Like our guys are getting callback contracts. Like, hey, I got this offer from this other company, but I wanted to see, give you guys another chance, or I wanted to let you know where they came in at. Like,
that's how you know your reps are doing a good job. If people are giving you offers from other companies saying like, hey, can you at least come close to this, right? If you hear that, like if you could come within $5,000, like I'd rather just go with you. Exactly. That's usually a really good sign. And so we just talked about all of our sales process, right? Phenomenal sales process. I love that you put a lot of emphasis on qualifying the leads before they even get to your setters. You guys have a really good process for getting in person versus virtual. Now, once they come in, right? You mentioned that you were doing mostly novations. And I think you said, are you guys doing 50-50 novation? Or are you doing more than that right now?
Right now, we're probably still like 95%.
Wow. And so you guys really have novations down.
Yeah.
Now, the biggest struggle that people have when they're doing novations is setting the expectation with the seller, right? And then secondly, retail buyers, there's a reason that the sellers typically want to reach out to us. Retail buyers are flaky. So how do you guys go about setting the expectation with the seller and managing the expectations with the buyers?
I'll speak on the seller, and then I'll let Andre get a little word in on the buyer end. So I don't do another secret sauce. We don't do a normal novation pitch of like the equity protection program, brewer or anything like that. We don't say the words. We avoid keywords. We avoid the word marketing. We avoid the word service. And we slightly sometimes say white glove experience, but we've even gotten away from that. It's basically, we'll go like this. We say, hey, cash buyers in the area are probably going to pay between 100 to 120 for a property like this. What would you say to someone who offered you that? And they're either going to say, oh, hell no. Or they're going to say, they're not going to really have a reaction to it most of the time. Or either I would accept that and then you just got a layup. So that happens rarely. But
you didn't anchor low enough.
You didn't anchor low enough. Yeah, if you got that. But then usually those deals, like I got one like that not too long ago, 3 deals from one seller that I hit him. He hit me with just like right at my number, and I didn't even negotiate with him because it was like an 80K spread on 4 properties, 90K spread. So I was like, you know what? We'll run it. But long story short, the back to the process, we are going to go, hey, cash buyers are going to accept, probably offer you, 100 to 120 for your property. If the property's worth 250, or 300, or we already know from prior conversations, we might say, you're probably not going to be interested in accepting anything like that. But usually you just want to pause and be quiet, wait for their response. Power pause, we call it. So you hit the power pause on them. They're going to give you a reaction. Yeah. I probably wouldn't accept that either. But if I can talk to my boss and get him to offer you, somewhere closer to your number or the number that you need, would that be something that you would accept? Yes. Okay. Do you care where the money comes from? If that's the case, I know he's going to ask me that. Do you care where the money comes from? No, I don't care where the money comes from. Or you've gotten like, sometimes people say, I don't care if it comes with a sock in a sock underneath your mattress. Then other people kind of get sketched out by it. They're like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Oh, what we mean by that is at that price, if I can get them to agree to it, we just wouldn't be your buyer.
Okay.
And then, oh, okay, well, yeah. And then the conversation just goes on from there. So you don't care where the money comes from. You understand that we're not going to be the final buyer. And a lot of this stuff will come up when you're reviewing the contract, like you're just re-reviewing it. And then at the bottom of our new contracts, we do have a little equity protection box that you can check that just says, we'll need reasonable access to the property. So this is what you opted into. This is the offer that you opted into, but it's not within our pitch whatsoever. I don't want to that's the thing with novations where I feel like a lot of people jack it up is they try to over explain and they overcomplicate it. Yeah. Do you care where the money comes from? No. Okay. Most people don't. If I won the lottery, like I'm not going to ask, who's paid me all that money? Who put all that money in my bank account? No, I wouldn't care either. So
then there's no mention in your pitch about it going on the market on the MLS.
No.
Right. Until.
Okay, no, I don't like them saying this, but sometimes Anthony, he'll say like, oh, Tyler's got contractors. He's got other investors. He might even sell it to a family on the market. Like he might throw something like that in. But I personally would like to not, like if they ask, like, what do you mean? This is all I say, like, what do you mean you won't be the final buyer, right? If you get another objection after the like, what do you mean? Where do you care where the money comes from? What do you mean you're not going to be the buyer? We're going to sell it.
Yeah.
That's sense. It. Like that, we're going to sell it.
Huh. Interesting.
Oh, like a realtor? No, I'm not a realtor. You're not going to pay any commissions. You're not going to pay any closing costs. And if the buyer's lender requests repairs, we're going to take care of those things in our costs.
Yeah. And so the biggest pushback that I would imagine, and Andre, I'd love to hear your perspective of how you overcome this is, hey, I didn't know you guys were going to list my property on the market.
Happens every time. Like they say, oh, I didn't know you guys weren't going to buy it if it didn't sell by this time.
Yeah. So how do you set those expectations with the seller, Andre? How do you keep those people on?
So we stole a lot of the process from Padley. We're in their mentorship, and they're awesome, and they've made a lot of mistakes, and they learned a lot. So we implemented the seller, what do we call it? The seller same page call. So there's two. So after they get the contract, so the acquisitions first, their number one goal is to get the contract, right? That's their goal. Get the contract, set enough expectations and agreement up front, right? They agreed on the price, we agreed on the timeline. We're not the final buyer. And now I actually was so happy when we got this new contract from the guy at Padley with that new language at the bottom, the equity protection program, because now they're signing off that actually says that the sale is contingent upon us finding a third party buyer. So it handles a lot of those objections. But regardless if you tell them or you don't tell them, at the end of the day, they're always going to say, I thought you were buying the property.
Yeah.
So the big things that we have implemented is having that we have two calls. The transaction coordinator, she calls the seller right after the contract. We try to do it the same day, that's as fast as possible. Transaction coordinator calls them. They have a checklist of things that they go through, and part of that checklist is, hey, you are aware that we might be wholesaling this property. We might be putting this property on the MLS. No, I think we say on the open market to the public. We might buy this property ourselves. We might, and there's like 5 bullet points of like things that we might do with the property. And do you understand that? And they have to get the agreements from the seller. Yes, I understand that. Okay. And then the same deal. Now the disposition rep, they're going to call them the next day and have what we call a seller same page call. And that the goal for that call is for 3 things: get access to the property, make sure that we can get a lockbox on there as soon as possible, and that they understand that the property is going to be put on the open market immediately. And we're going to have to, if it's owner occupied, those are the hardest ones because now you got to coordinate showing and stuff with them. So those tend to be the most pain in the ass ones because, for them, it really, the experience isn't as smooth as, non-owner occupied property because now they're having to coordinate showings and leave the house and stuff. But we set that expectation up front. We were having a lot of problems with that for a little while with not set it. So we implemented that in the last 2 months of making that call and saying, hey, look, we're going to do showings, and that's just what it is. And as long as you set the expectations up front, I found that it's really not that big of a deal. Like once they sign the contract and we have that initial call, they're good. We rarely have a lot of problems. Sometimes they'll still say like a month later, I thought you could, like if we have a buyer back out or something of a deal and they're expecting to close, they'll say, well, I thought you were going to buy it.
Yeah.
And, they'll always try to finagle their way, but just setting the expectations up front, like right away, acquisition gets a contract. We have TC call, do a checklist, confirm a dispo rep. Now they're making the connection and they're the main point of contact with the sellers moving forward because they're going to be coordinating the showings if it's owner occupied. If it's not owner occupied, put the lockbox on there. And they again, hey, we're going to be listing this property. We're going to be showing it to buyers. Just want to confirm we're all good. We're on the same page.
That's so good because the communication, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to try to hide it from the seller that it's getting listed and that there's going to be buyers walking through. That is the quickest way to have your contract to close fall out.
Yeah.
It's all about the communication. 2
of our biggest core values that we implemented, in the beginning and we push and everything we do is communication and transparency. So being completely transparent the whole way through and communicating that same all the way through. Like everything's very transparent. And another thing is if they say, oh no, I didn't know that, that means that the acquisitions home buying specialist didn't do their job efficiently. So, hey, I'm going to need this. That's what was told to me. So you have these pass offs, right? So it's like, hey, look, that's out of my hands. I'm going to have to send you back to Connor and have him call you. And then is that something you want me to stop this process and send you back to Connor? And they're like, well, stop the process. Wait. Or they'll say, yeah, have him call me. Boom. There you go there. If on the same page seller call or at any point, whether we need to retrade or anything where the seller kind of gets sideways, boom, I got to send you back to the home buying inspector. That's out of my hands. And so boom, they send them back. But I just want to let you know when I send you back, this is going to halt the process. We can take it down off the market. So if
they are motivated, you're going to get people that are, they're like, oh no, I'm ready to go. Whatever.
Yeah, never mind. Don't even worry about it. Let's just do it. Just do it. Just go. Yeah. Just reduce it. or just extend it, or maybe the home buying specialist will have to step in, and usually it's whoever has better rapport too as well. But these things have been huge and integral for us to be more efficient, because before, especially when it was just me and Andre, and a couple other, maybe like a lead manager, or really just have an assistant in dispo, we were just having a lot of the conversations. And even when we brought on our home buying specialist, Connor, the first one, a lot of their time, they couldn't be focused on getting new contracts, or we couldn't be focused on getting new contracts, because we were talking and trying to manage all the back and forth between the seller of the current contract. Yep. There was a big
and I think that's a huge struggle that a lot of people, they deal with when they start doing novations. It's a lot more work, right? And if you're not setting expectations properly, it always comes back to bite you. So you guys are absolutely crushing it now. I love this, man. You guys really know your business. So if people want to learn more about what you're doing, maybe they want to reach out to you, how can people connect with you guys? Got Instagram, Facebook, social media, anything like
first.
that?
You can find me on Instagram, Andre Carvalho.rei. That's probably the best place to reach out to me.
All right, we'll put that in the show notes as well. Yeah. What about you, Tyler?
You can just reach out to me on either Facebook, Tyler Wyatt, or Instagram. I'm better on Facebook, but Instagram, absolutely. You can reach out to me, GTylerW. Keep it simple.
Perfect.
And reach out, ask questions anytime.
Awesome. Well, you guys have been awesome. I appreciate you guys coming out, and I think that the listeners are going to get a ton of value out of this, especially, guys, we went over partnerships, went over how to close 1 out of 10 cold call leads, better qualify them, and then how to nail down your dispositions process. So this is the Zeroed In podcast. We are signing out. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, John.